Hello everyone, sorry I'm just readjusting. We are live yet again, and this will be for one of my authors chats of the week. And as I wait for everybody to get notified, and I'll keep my eye out for my co-host today, and we'll get things going shortly, talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. And I hope everybody's week's been going well. It's a shorter normal work week for me because I'll be heading out to my last springtime convention on Friday, which is what I've been kind of doing behind the scenes, is gathering books. So if I look a little thin, it's just because I have my book bins already kind of set and ready to go, and been collecting all that gear that I have for my book booth, because I'll be signing and selling copies as well as participating on panels while I'm there. And in the interim, let's see if I can send you an invite. I see here. There we go. Okay. Also make sure my volume is up on my side since I usually turn it down throughout the day. See if he sees the invite. Doop doop. Hopefully you'll see. And yeah, it's always kind of tricky, especially for someone maybe the first time jumping on a live. And we'll get things going momentarily. But I'm gearing up for my Kickstarter launch next Tuesday. So I'll be live here at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, kind of hanging out for the hour leading up to the moment when I press launch and go and make it live and all that jazz. And then probably hanging out a little bit after that as well. Sorry, I'm gonna cough. I still blame allergies. But let's see. Okay. I sent the invite. I don't know if he's seen that. So try to see if I can do that again in just a moment. But yeah, it's gonna be fun for the Kickstarter. I'm excited. I have, let's see, let me see if I can send it again. Okay, trying to send the invite again, see if he says. See if you see it, so you can accept it. Well, we'll do our best. We'll do our best. But yeah, Kickstarter, let me see what else is going on. I've been working through some of my preliminary edits from my editor on one book, and sent my other editor another book. 2 editors, multiple projects. It's a lot of fun over here. Okay, well, let's see. See, he's live. I don't know if let's see if you can see my messages. We'll get things going. But yes, anywho, okay, so Kickstarter is gonna launch on Tuesday. What else has been going on? Oh yeah, I'm glad you like the bookends. Yes, I love dragons. And actually, I've been talking to so many authors on these lives this year that all are releasing books with dragon themes. Sorry, still allergies. Tickles and throats because I've been outside. But I think that's really cool, because my book that I'm launching through the Kickstarter first before I actually launch it to the world, that one is my dragon themed one. And just so happened that I had planned years ago, excuse me, I can't get it to clear my throat, years ago, that I was going to be having the 5th book as my dragon focused one, and it just, I guess, I'm assuming maybe it's, the buzz is around, what's the book series, Fourth Wing? I have yet to read it, so, but I'm wondering if that's why a lot of authors are kind of having dragons in the brain. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But I'm kind of wanting to get like a round table of all these authors together, and to see if we can just chat about what made us all think dragons at the same time. Who knows? We'll see. Let's see. I don't know. If you're on my feed, let me know, because I keep sending invites, but because I see him out watching, I just don't see you accepting the invites to jump on. Hi, how are you? We're gonna be chatting about books shortly, kind of touching base right now. about things. But yeah, dragons are complex talking. That is very, very true. Okay, so I see you here in the chat. I keep sending you the invite to accept, so I don't know if you're seeing that when I send it to you, because I keep sending it to you, but let me try to cancel it and try to send it to you one more time. Okay, just sent your invitation, so you have to accept it on your end. Anywho, yes, so dragons, they are a complex topic. I absolutely love them. It was in college. One of my majors was fine art, and I've told the story before, I know, but in order to graduate, I had to do a solo art show, and my theme was, actually, it was natural history of the dragons. So I had multimedia representations of dragons of various sorts. I had like a whole series that were dragon species, another one which was the famous slayers of dragons. I had a giant sculptural dragon with glowing eyes breaking into the art exhibition. So it was a lot of fun. So I love dragons like my whole life. And so I'm really excited about this book that's coming out, because now I can actually delve into this world of dragons on my multiverse. We shall see. And if we can't figure out how to connect this time, it's okay. Sometimes that happens, because it's been so long since I've been sent an invite that I don't know how I could describe someone joining the live chat if on the flip side, but we shall see if we connect. Anywho, sometimes you have little bumps in the road, but yeah, so that one's the one I'm getting. I just got back from the editor, so I'm finally getting to the polish up stage for that one, and it's a lot of fun. And I've ordered a bunch of fun things for my Kickstarters, like the sticker. I've done designing the stickers, bookmarks, and some stuff like that. And I just, that's so strange. I don't know. Womp womp. Yes, you have the following number. I don't know. Strange. Can I add you as a guest? Try it one more time. Sorry, this is frustrating. Yeah, no, I've never had that issue before of the invite not letting someone accept. So that is frustrating. Maybe you can back out and jump back on. Like get out of the app and get back on. I have no idea. It's like that restart button, I feel like. But yeah, so the Dragon series, which is my young adult series. And then on the flip side, I am getting close to that. I think I hit the 3/4 mark at this point, but I've been releasing my Greek retelling, which I called Fleet, through my Patreon and at the moment, and it's focused on the character Atalanta, who is lesser known among the Greek heroes and heroines, predominantly because she arguably is one of the only true female heroes. If you want to like argue what makes a hero, it's kind of fascinating, I think. But her story is tied to pretty much all the big names in her generation. So you got Heracles, you get Theseus and Jason, the Argonauts, and the father of Achilles and the father of Odysseus, and Orpheus, the guy who goes to the underworld to try to rescue his wife. All of them are linked, kind of connected to her in some way. So I'm having a lot of fun because this will be a duology. And once I'm kind of ready to go, I'm going to try to probably release it to the general public next year. So I'm going to keep my eye out for the right cover designer is what I'm looking for. Here, let's see. Ooh, wait. Send the invite. Maybe it's my phone. Why are you not joining? That's so frustrating. We'll get it. Maybe not. I'm sorry. We're having technical issues. And I am not a technical person. Which is funny because I do these weekly, but
Alright, I think I might be coming on.
Step 1 complete. Sorry that took forever. That was a new one for me. So the whole getting out and getting back in, and for me canceling on my side once more and then restarting. Looks like we got you on.
I'm at least on, I think.
Yeah, I see you're on. There's some way for you to flip so you can turn your camera on because right now it has just your logo.
Yeah.
But regardless, I can hear you. So stage one complete.
Yes, yes. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what was going on.
It's okay. So, like I said, it could be on my end, it could be your end, it could be a little bit of both because, yeah, I fully expect there's always going to be some kind of glitch in the beginning, and anytime it runs smoothly, it's wonderful because as I was kind of saying a little bit ago, I'm not technically savvy, and so if it's not something I've self-taught and done 1,000 times, I can't help. But yeah, so if you, yeah, oh, there you go, perfect. Hello.
Hello. I had to go with my phone instead of my computer, which I was kind of hoping for, but
It's okay. At least it gives you that kind of upright, which kind of, I think that's maybe what it wants, is you to have that kind of rectangular screen for whatever reason.
might have been that. That might have been the problem.
Who knows? Well, welcome, and sorry for that, like I said, the initial hiccup, but it's been for me. It's been like a year. I feel like it's not just a week or a day. It's a year. So I get it. But since you're my co-host today, I'll let you start off things by introducing yourself and what you write, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, I'm under the author name of MD Jobe. My name is Matthew Jobe. And my first book, which is Viral Evolution, came out last March. And my second book, which is Ninth Evolution, will be coming out here hopefully June 3rd. That's what we're targeting for a release date. So I'm really excited about that. And this is new to me. I'm a pharmacist in my regular time, so that helped me develop some of the ideas for the story, and that's been kind of my base of my knowledge for the ideas that are in the books.
I love that. Okay, so what genres would you put your books into, or how would you fit them?
Sure. They're considered medical thriller. I put a comp to them as kind of something similar to either Raiders of the Lost Ark, Da Vinci Code, or National Treasure, where you have a different way of looking at a topic that we all are kind of familiar with. It's always about evolution on some level.
Mm-hmm. And so what was it, you said, because some of your inspiration or some of your knowledge you pull from your other job. I hate using the word day job because once you become an author, it's another job. It really is. But your other job and influenced this book. So what was it that made you decide one day you were going to just write? I love asking this one off the top.
Well, I had this idea for a long time, the idea for the story, which kind of came to me when I was in college at the time. And it was kind of an inspiration from the idea that when you get to college and you're a young person, you're learning about medical and pharmacy and things like that, that you kind of assume that everyone knows everything. And you find out that not everything is known, even in that field, where you're like, oh, we give them this medication and we're not really sure why it works, but it works, which was a surprise to me and made me kind of like rethink a few different concepts.
That is interesting. So then how did you kind of develop your main character or characters? I don't know if you have one POV or multiple, but like, how did you decide who your main character was going to be for your story?
I just kind of developed the story one time when I was driving back from Wisconsin originally, and driving back from Wisconsin with my family from a visit. It was a long drive, and I was kind of bored just thinking about something to occupy my mind as we're going along for such a long time. And I kind of came up with this storyline there. And the main character is Declan Thomas, and he's a student at the University of Wisconsin. And he's not really a student. He's kind of a grad intern kind of person, or a science assistant kind of person now. So he's old enough that he shouldn't be in college anymore, but he's still kind of hanging out there doing stuff, assisting with research and etc. And then my other main character, Lauren Summers, is also about the same age, right around at 27, done with college and trying to figure out her science plan for her job, which she initially starts with kind of a traditional research concept, but then ends up doing more private research for corporations, and that's what kind of leads to the problems that happen in the story.
Ah, very nice. And when you're okay, it's another thing because for me, when I write my books, I'm a series writer. I already know off the top that they're going to be series. I kind of have an idea how many, if not the exact number from the get go. Since you're about to release your sequel, did you initially plan for 2 or more, or have they kind of expanded after you began your writing journey?
I kind of planned on doing 3.
Okay.
So it's going to be Viral Evolution, and Ninth Evolution is book 2, and I'm hoping Final Evolution will be book 3.
Ooh, I like that. And I can only, based off the titles, I can only assume that whatever they're dealing with, pathogen or whatnot, it, as you said, evolves within the series and gets probably worse and worse.
Well, what it is it's that a virus is triggering the next leap in human evolution. So
Okay.
it looks at human evolution in a different way than your standard Darwinian evolution. I just, in kind of dissecting the concept, was like, all right, if let's say one fish turned to have legs and kind of crawled out of the ocean and then just died in the sand, then you may have millions of years before another fish has legs and comes out and dies on the sand, etc. And so, in the same way of looking at evolution is kind of saying, all right, if the whole species evolved in one leap of evolution, so that they all got legs at one time due to some cause, that there'd be a much better chance that that evolution would continue and the species would actually develop.
I like that.
Yeah. So in this case, it's showing that human evolution would go in leaps, whereas if you don't necessarily see, like if you had a monkey that you're saying, or an ape that turned into a human, you don't see a lot of human apes kind of rolling around. So that if everyone evolved in more of a leap, which was caused by a virus, which in this case caused your DNA, which already was in your body, to be read differently and cause that change.
Ooh, fascinating.
It's
I do like this twist. I like that.
pretty high concept. There's a lot of thought that went into the whole thing. But it basically is saying that everyone has within them, in their own DNA, all the changes in evolution. But our bodies at this time are only able to read certain parts. And that by doing that, you're only at this level of evolution. So that you have in yourself the ability to do everything, but we can't do it yet because we're not evolved yet to use it.
Oh, fun. That's intriguing. That is exciting. So from the release, because I'll have to say, when I started writing, it took me a while to figure everything out. The whole process and everything, it does get faster, and I streamlined the process on the writing side as well as kind of hopefully improved on the marketing side. But for you to release your first 2 books within almost a year of each other, that's an impressive feat. So how much did you have written of the entire series before you went ahead to publish the first book?
Well,
Right.
it was a weird kind of path that it ended up taking, because the first book took probably about 15 years or so to write. There's just a lot of life in there. And I have 3 children, and I have lots of other things that kept kind of getting in the way. And I'd start to write, and then I'd maybe not get off track and not complete things. And eventually I just said, look, I have to lock in and do this. It's just taken too long. And then once I got done with 1, it was much easier for me to write 2. 2 took about, let's say about 13 to 14 months. And then, of course, then I had 2 finished writing when 1 came out. So then it went through this about 14 months again to get finished, edited, ready to go.
Yep. Nope. Like I said, that does sound familiar to me because from the the origin of like the conception of the story that would become my first book, as far as Claws, and the publication date is almost 10 years. And I will admit, like I came up with the idea relatively young and was heading into college. So there was a 4-year gap right there. But I had a few things kind of sketched out and everything. And then once I graduated, I had a little bit more time kind of piecemealing it together and until I wrote that first book. But it did take a while to get the writing done and then figuring out how the heck I'm going to publish it.
It was just such a crazy process. I had no idea that when you were done writing, it's just the beginning of a whole lot longer thing.
Adventure.
Yeah. I just really didn't think that it would be so much more to it. Like, all right, I'm done. Let's go. And it's like, oh, no, we got a lot more to do.
Yep. And, for each author, I'm indie, so I self-publish, but, if you go through the traditional track, you have the querying stage and the submission stage, and everything takes a lot of time. And there's no quick way to really go about it, especially initially. I know there are some authors now that, because they have a system, they know what they're doing, they can turn them fast. But when you're beginning and you just are learning, that's very rare to find. For someone to be able to figure that out, that perfect timing. A lot of times we stumble along.
Yeah. And I had initially thought that I was going to kind of do more of the indie route, where I looked in and I got a person to do some editing for me. And I was communicating with them through emails and sent them the manuscript. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to bother this person. I'm just going to let them do their job. And then I don't want to be constantly asking like, oh, how's it going or whatever. And I finally got back to them after, I think, about 2 months. And I said, oh, hey, how's it going? And they were like, oh, I thought from the last email we weren't doing this anymore. So I wasn't doing anything.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, this didn't work. I have to find a different way to do it. And I had a friend who is an editor, but she worked for a hybrid publisher who's close to me. I'm in Waxhaw, which is south of Charlotte, and she was the publishers in Rock Hill. It's Warren Publishing, and because I had her as a person who was recommending them, I felt more comfortable that this wasn't like a vanity press concept, that it really was an actual publisher. They go through, they get submissions, and then they vet those submissions and decide whether they want to work with you and publish your book. So that was the route I went to, because I didn't feel that I had the knowledge base to do this without any experience.
Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad way to go. Like, if you are interested in publishing with someone, you don't always have to just jump to the big names. There are some reputable ones that are middle level, even small level presses. It just, they may not offer the same things that the big ones can, but sometimes you get a little bit more of an intimate hands-on, from what I've heard, when you have a mid-level or a smaller press that's not a vanity press.
Yeah, that's key. No, but these guys were really good, and I worked with them for both books. They do a great job. They offer some marketing. I have a person who I can call and talk to about marketing, and sets up a degree of marketing. I mean, it's probably similar to a big press where they're doing some of the marketing, but a lot of it still falls on you. Just bottom line, it does.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at some of the bigger names that have recently come out of the big houses, you'll see them on social media. And it's not just because they're younger faces, and so social media may make sense, but it is one of the best ways to reach people. And again, anybody that's under that, it's almost essential, especially for like people like me who are indie. How do you get your name, your book in front of people who don't know you? It's a task.
And one of the things I liked about indie, and I like about this situation, is I was able to retain all my rights. I didn't really, I really enjoyed the concept. I think that's one of the strongest points of the book. And I didn't want to give up the rights to that just to sell them the book so that then they could kind of do stuff with it. So I really like that part of it.
That's great. Yeah, I was going to say I am a control freak. I say this like almost every one of these live streams. So indie makes sense because I can kind of control the quality and everything. And now that means if there's an error or if I miscalculate or don't know or miss the boat and all those things, it's on me. There's no one else to blame but me. But it does help me to make sure and ensure that the quality of the product I'm releasing, which is my book, is up to snuff. So,
yeah, I really like. I've seen some of the concepts of your books, and I really like to hear a little bit more about how you do your different. I think it's a multiverse concept.
oh yeah. I have 3 different series, and they're very different, even though they're all under the high fantasy second world kind of concept of fantasy. So I write for adults, new adults, and young adults. None of them cross over. But within the series, each respectively, I do like to branch larger scale. So for instance, my adult series is a dark retelling of Norse mythology, so Viking fantasy. And in that, I'm dealing with all 9 realms in around Yggdrasil, the world tree. So in one sense, that is kind of more universal, I guess I can say, because you're dealing with multiple worlds essentially throughout their kind of cosmology. Now, my young adult series is truly a multiverse. So you have multiple dimensions, different worlds, and lots of diagrams, lots and lots of notes.
How to keep track of all that?
It gets very complicated, and that's why I have realized each book in that series takes progressively longer for me to write. Though if I write a book of a different series, it's far quicker. It's just because this one has so many characters, so many plot lines, so many worlds. It takes a lot more effort to make sure I'm going in the direction I want to go in and everything's making sense and I'm not missing anything. And woo!
I mean, I think it's hard to just keep track of my own characters in just a regular story setup. You know, I usually try to do, like, if I have a lot of characters, my second book has more characters than my first, and I had to do like little character profiles of everyone, their name, their height, weight, general history, and those type of things, so that I could keep track of everybody.
I like that. You know what? Sorry, I have random ideas and random thoughts that hit me throughout these lives all the time. And usually they don't benefit me. It's whoever I'm talking to. It would be kind of cool. I don't know if you sell directly to people or not, but it would be kind of cool if you had like a character artist, design maybe the face and do kind of the medical badge like pins, and you have your character, their name, and maybe a couple facts. And it could be either a business card or a bookmark, but something you can do.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that you as an indie author seem like that's where I'm not there yet with all of the different things I need to do to kind of promote the book better. Like all the different stuff.
Well, I mean, I think everybody goes through stages. You're not going to just, publish your book and figure it out instantaneously. And I've been published since 2016, and I'm still figuring things out. I literally was looking at another author's post recently about an event he did live, and I was looking at his booth because he was walking through, here's what I do here, and this is what I have here. And I was like, ooh, I like that. Tell me where you had this made. And but that's the fun thing about this community. You can ask. So if you have any specific questions, feel free. If you're doing generalities, I have no idea where to begin.
I've done a few things. I've gotten some pins. I've got some T-shirts. I've got a few posters and some things like that. So I've got a few things that I'm working on. I feel a little behind when I look at some of the extensive things that people do, especially in these book boxes and some of the different things people do.
Well, you don't have to make it extremely flashy. There are people who do, but you don't have to. Obviously, the book is the big deal, and if you can come with like a couple cute little easy things that you can maybe print at the house, or they don't take a lot of time and money and effort to produce, because as you're doing T-shirts and pins, those are on the more expensive side. I will admit, I don't really do those because they are on the more expensive side. I'm not there yet personally, but you can be creative, and think outside the box for the little things. And, if you're selling directly You can come up with some kind of interesting eye-catching piece that you put on your display that, again, draws the eye. I don't know where, I've already packed them up because I'm about to go to an event. Someone gave me those little popular Scandinavian gnomes that certain people collect. And they found one that was a Viking gnome. Nice. And since one of my series is a Viking series, the gnome now travels to me to certain cons and sits on my table.
There you go. There you go.
To draw the eye. And then also a conversation piece. Oh, you like it? Well, that's because I have a series that's based off Norse mythology. And, so you can be kind of fun and quirky, and it doesn't have to break the bank. That's the key.
I have a book signing Saturday at Carolina Place in Charlotte here, or in Pineville, and I went to see another author doing the same thing because I wanted to see what the setup was and what they had going on, and so I really think one of the biggest challenges, and I want to see if you kind of think this too, is just getting a lot of readers are a little bit more introverted people. Yes. And getting them to come over to you seems like just such a task. I'm starting to do the convention bracket for any kind of conventions that either relate to fantasy or writing or books, etc., so on. And so having a lot of fun, but it's interesting because they're definitely, on the flip side, authors who are very, I would say, aggressive in their sales, where they'll call someone out. And depending on the type of people, the crowd that, whatever that event draws, that can be perfect. On the other hand, if you have a lot of people that are either more introverted or, a little more sensitive to things, you don't necessarily want to be shouting out, and you want them to feel comfortable to approach you. So, that is one of those tricks. One of the things that I've liked and I've started incorporating is, if you're good, which I'm very bad about, but if you're good about doing your little hook line, that little pitch, that's a sentence or two, I've seen more and more authors where they type their hook, and it could be quirky, it could be funny, it could be whatever you want, and underneath it they'll say, here are your genres, and it's on a piece of paper you tuck in your book so people can walk by your booth, read it, and they don't necessarily have to engage with you, but they're reading it, they're learning from it, and if they have a question, they can talk to you. And that way you're not like, hey, do you like, and then everybody's like, oh my goodness, you've entered my space. I really wanted to find something kind of like what you're saying, where they can see it from afar and decide whether they like it or not. I mean, one of the authors I saw, it wasn't really clear what the books were on the table. And so the person would have to even come up to them just to ask about them. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to think of things that are bigger and display what the book's about, so that the person can walk by and decide whether they want to see me or not, rather than somebody who's having to come up to me and ask.
And other things, again, talk about how fancy you want. I have not done this because depending on the size of your space at some of these events, you may have a very small table. And also you may not have a plug or anything, but I've seen a couple times, which I thought was neat, where someone had like an iPad where they had maybe their book trailer or some kind of like slideshow pitch about that. So it was visual. You probably won't have audio because it's going to be noisy wherever you are, but something visual that people can look at, watch, hopefully learn something about your book, get excited about it. And again, if you're worried about like saying, hey, do you like, that's another thing. It's that people can feel comfortable looking at, in their zone and not necessarily engaging. But on the flip side, there are other people who kind of want the engagement. If you don't engage with them, they're going to walk on by too. So it's something you just have to learn, figure out, and again, fail periodically.
I had done what's called the Charlotte Book Crawl, which is a indie bookstore event where the people go around and they have a little sheet that they get stamped at the different bookstores.
Nice.
And I did this event at CCB in Rock Hill, which is a little bookstore there with a wine and food and everything. And what they did was they gave me the stamp to stamp the people's thing when they came through. Yeah. They had to come to me and then I could stamp their thing and kind of be like, oh, hey, you know, where have you been? Have you gone to a bunch of bookstores today? And what did you like? And it just opened the door for conversation, I felt.
Yeah, the last con I went to a couple weeks ago, Jordan Con, and because I live in and around the Atlanta area, so those are the ones I kind of hub at. That one was fun because they did something like that for the first day or two, where they had essentially a bingo sheet, and there were like 3 or 4 different versions. But if you were someone who had a booth there, your name was going to pop up at least on one of the cards, and we all had stamps. And so the people who wanted to get the prize, and there was like prizes or whatnot, would have to at least engage minimally with people. And so it did encourage that kind of ebb and flow, which was very nice. And I like that fact, but that's something that the convention organized, and it's not everybody there is like, oh, let's do this. You know, it was part of, built into that event.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just anything that lets them come to you first, and then, you know, you can just go from there. I mean, it was kind of weird. I'd be like smiling at somebody who walked in and, you know, waving at them, and they were like, hey, I don't want to buy. I'm like, no, I have the stamp. Oh, okay, now I'll go. All right, now I have a reason to come over and talk to you because you have the stamp and I need the stamp.
Okay, well, the funny thing is, this last one was the first time I ever did one of those, kind of the stamp your own. So they gave me the stamp when I was sitting in the booth, and I was doing everything like autopilot. And all of a sudden, these 2 little girls came up and were like, hey, can I get you to stamp my stuff? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, where did I put that stamp? I forgot where I put it. It took me a moment. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll come back up, I promise. It was just not what I was used to. So whatever my autopilot, it ended up in one of my boxes under the table. And I was just like, yeah, that was smart.
I was totally caught off guard by the whole concept too, but I really did embrace it once I realized, this is going to help people come and talk to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. And also nice things about events, obviously you want to be talking to readers and getting their attention, but it's a great way to build community on the writing and author side, because depending on who's positioned next to you, you can always learn from each other on various things. So.
Yeah. I've seen, we have a couple little Comic-Cons that they have in Charlotte about every 4 months or so, and they have some booths, and my genre doesn't exactly fit into that because it's not really superhero-y, but it does have that science element to it. So that's, I've gone to a couple of them and talked to the guys there, and it seems like a great welcome opening community.
Yeah, and I know you said yours is more of a thriller and not horror, but like if you get already just close enough, sometimes that's great, because if you go to a convention and everybody's horror, which obviously, you know, if you're going to a horror convention, that's what people go to for some reason. But sometimes it's nice to be the one that's just akin, because they're like, oh, you know what? Yes, I want something a little different too.
Yeah, I mean, reader is a reader. If you like books, usually you are open to at least some similar genres. You may not go completely the other direction, but similar genres generally are okay.
Exactly. And I'm glad to hear that you are doing the face-to-face, because I spent years where I didn't do it. I got more comfortable doing the social media side of things, and then after a while I was like, you know what? I do want to kind of figure out and get back into the rhythm post-COVID of seeing people face-to-face. And thankfully I had another author friend was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You wanna join me on this convention? And I was just like, sure, let's try this. And I haven't looked back.
You see, I think you do a fantastic job on this stuff. Right? You're up there very consistently posting, and you have good concepts and good like daily things. I still struggle to find the time and to be able to do this comfortably sometimes.
Hey, that's what I repurpose and I batch create. So those is do it, because it will save time, because I have dedicated times on Mondays and Fridays where I'll batch create content, especially like these videos, because then throughout the week I can always edit and tweak and tag and whatnot, but at least they're recorded and sitting in that file, and then I can kind of more or less post throughout, and that does help. Plus the fact that I download these videos and post them on other socials helps too.
I do most of mine on, I'll do it on a separate thing like CapCut or something, and then post the videos onto here, so that even if this site with whatever's going on ends up going away, that I still have my content.
Yes, and that's always a good thing. Is another thing to think about. You don't want it to go away. So it's why it took me so long. Again, I'm always very hesitant to start something new because I have limited time and energy to dedicate to new things. Now, it's also good for you to try new things because you never know what will be the next best thing for you. So recently, as in towards the beginning of the year, I started doing the YouTube shorts where I started posting my little things here, and that surprisingly gained a bunch of people far quicker than I thought it would, I should say. Now, not huge following by any means, but I was pleasantly surprised about that. And all I was doing is repost videos from here.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier. I haven't done YouTube much at this point in time. I don't know, kind of like you say, I'm a little hesitant.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we all have, again, that finite amount of time, energy, effort, and whatever we're doing, we have to dedicate how much time we're writing, how much time we're doing our other job, how much time are we going to be with our family, how much time we're going to marketing, and each of us has to figure out what works best for them, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for others, and you don't have to do it all. I say this a lot because I have huge FOMO, I fear missing out, and I feel like I need to do it all. But you don't need it all.
Yeah,
you can do
I think I feel that too. I think I feel that too from time to time.
Oh yeah, it's true. But let me ask you actually, so with your book and then your other one launching, you said hopefully around June 3rd, which is coming up really quickly actually. So congratulations on that. Where is your first book found? Is it exclusive through Amazon? Is it wide? And you mentioned a little bit that you do sell direct. So where can people find your book?
It's wide. You can go to my publisher. They're probably one of the better places to buy the book, and that is Warren, WARREN, Publishing, PUBLISHING.net, and you can purchase it there. But it is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can get it at Target.com, Walmart.com, really pretty much anywhere. So that's nice and convenient. You can kind of send anyone to any place, but some places are a little bit better for authors.
That's true. That's why when I can say it, I'll be like, if you can afford it, buy direct from the authors. A lot of times they'll even give you better deals or discounts or extra perks. If you do that, because it helps us. We appreciate it, so we want to show our appreciation our own way. But yes, so always find out, depending on the author, what is the best way, and if you can do it, do that. So the publisher's website for you. That's great. Also, what formats is it available in? Paperback, hardcover, ebook, audio?
Right now, we're just doing paperback and hardback.
Okay.
And going from there. I've looked into I would really love to do an audiobook. I've had a lot of my friends say, oh, I'd love to read your book. When is it on audiobook? But I haven't, it seems like it's going to be a little expensive, and I just haven't got it all together yet.
It's okay. That one is a larger learning curve for me. I have all three of my series being converted into audio at different stages. But yeah, it is a learning curve, and there is the financial part. Now, there are options, which everything has options. There are options where you don't have to pay anything up front, but then there are counterparts of why that is. For instance, if you're going through the Audible's platform, which is called ACX, one of the options is you can do a split share. So the 40% royalties, the split 20/20 with you and your narrator for a set time. I think the average is around 7 years. You don't have to pay anything up front, but you have to be exclusive through ACX for that time period too. So you can't distribute wide. And so I do have one series that is going through that way. Financially, that was great because I was making all three of my series audiobooks, and it is expensive. So having one there, the sacrifice, it has to stay exclusive through Audible and Amazon, but the others, because they're, I own all the rights for them, I can distribute them however I want. So
I really like that.
Yeah, so wherever you are, you have choices, and you just, as long as you know the pros and cons, and you're like, okay, I'm fine with the cons because the pros are what I'm looking for, it's great.
Yeah. And one of the big things that I want to do, one of the main reasons I wanted to keep my rights in this instance was that I've actually written the screenplay for book one.
Ooh.
I'm trying to work through editing it and getting it polished and really getting it ready to go. So that's another huge learning curve kind of thing, and exciting though, fun, different thing.
Now, I would advise you, and I don't try to advise people things because everybody's, journey is different, but because you said you don't have an ebook, that is something I would advise you to do because there's a huge amount of people who are ebook readers, and, again, you can choose to distribute widely or exclusive through KU, and um, but the readers are there. So that is a great way. That's where the bulk of most authors' sales are ebooks, surprisingly. So that may be something you might want to look into if you haven't so far.
Yeah, that's something I've been kind of discussing with the publisher. They were like they had a time frame that they wanted to go just regular books before we converted to ebook. And now they did give me the option if I wanted to go to it, I could. But I was like kind of trusting their guidance and saying, all right, let's see where we go, and then I'll go to that. It'll be there soon because it just makes sense.
That's great because, like I said, I am not an ebook reader. I like the physical books. I do. I especially love signed copies. That's my new thing is trying to collect signed copies of every book. But like I said, there are lots of people who just read ebooks, and so hopefully, when you get to that stage, you'll see a boost in sales too, because you'll be reaching only readers essentially.
Right, right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm still kind of trying to find how to get to everybody. And that's, I think this platform, I was on X it was Twitter and then X for a while. And then, I don't know, it just kind of got a little bit different for me. So this platform, finding TikTok has been really good. I've really liked this community, and I like this way of communicating with people in the community.
Oh yeah, this I say it all the time. This is my favorite platform at this moment in time, and I will be on it until they kick me off.
Yeah, kind of crazy to say.
Yep, but no, it's a fun one, and at least the way my brain's wired, it makes the most sense to me. So it did take me a while to get comfortable talking on screen because it's like you're staring at your own eyes, trying to have conversations. But it got easier, and I've now find a lot of joy making these kind of videos and engaging with people on this platform.
Yeah, it's definitely getting more comfortable for me as time's going by.
Now, do you have a copy of your book in arm's reach? Because we haven't seen your cover so far. There we go.
There we go.
Very nice.
This is the first book, Viral Evolution, and I have a card of book 2. I don't have the actual book yet. So this is book 2. Let me see if I can.
Like that.
And that's 9th Evolution. So that one's a little bit different concept with both covers. I designed both the covers. The first cover, I had it's a lot of symbolism to the cover. So the main character gets injured and his hand gets severed right along the line of where you can see kind of the transformation of the hand right there. There's a certain metal that's involved in keeping the virus dormant, and that symbol for the metal was a metal hand in a ring, which I was surprised when I did the research. I found that, and it was kind of one of those things that stimulated me to plan the cover to look like that. The fact that the sun is glinting off the thumb, the sun is also a key point in how the evolution occurs, how the leap in evolution occurs. And then kind of having the DNA spinning off is just kind of showing the change in the evolution. It's not actually a metal person, but it just shows a lot of symbolism there.
I like that. And again, you want it to always be able to give it a little bit of the vibe of what genre is, because that's one of the most important things about covers is for someone to be like, okay, so we're dealing with ...
And then fun fact, that is my hand.
That is really neat. I love that fact. You made your own book cover. That's cool. That's something rare.
Yeah. Well, my daughter helped me. I gave her the concept. She is an artist, and she drew out the concept. And then my cousin is a graphic artist, and he designed with the computer the whole rest of it. So it's about a family event.
I love that. I love that. Being able to pull the talented people you know in your life together to create something wonderful. That is great. Yeah, I was listening to, it was fascinating. There was another author chatting about designing her cover. And what she did was she got a group of artists together to collab on her cover, which I think that's a wonderful thing to do, because when you don't have too many minds on a project, or else you'll never get anywhere, because we all think very, very different in the art community. But it is really cool to see what you get when you have multiple people working together. So that, I applaud you.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like having the hybrid concept and the indie concept of being able to do your own thing with your cover. I felt a little uncomfortable with the concept of just having a traditional publisher doing whatever they wanted to do with my cover, or tweaking the story and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So what made you decide to veer a little differently for your second book cover? Because it does have a bit of a different feel with the
I designed this one as well. Let's see if I can get it right there. This is a scene in the book, and it has, again, the sun, which is instrumental in the concept. And then I think it's the second book is really, it opens up a lot of different things, a lot of different concepts that you couldn't bring in the first book. It introduces you to a bunch of different characters. Actually, today I was writing what could be possibly the blurb for the second book. And if you want, I can read it off to you so you can see a little bit of what's possibly going to be about here. I mean, this is still first draft, so this might not be what it is at the end of the day.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm still tweaking stuff for my upcoming release a little bit here and there.
Yeah. So here we go. Here you go. Taken against their will, Declan Thomas and Lauren Summers hope to find key pieces of information about the virus coursing through their veins. The lines between friend and foe will blur as they are introduced to the Children of the Sun, a secret society of evolved individuals. Just as the answers to their questions begin to unveil, a new threat shall emerge. Their integrity will be tested, lives will be lost as the fate of the human race swings in the balance. We have been given this gift early to lead the rest of the sheep, whether it is to become our equals or if it is to the slaughterhouse. Can anyone be trusted when the stakes are so high?
That's fantastic. Okay, you can write the next blurb for my book.
Yeah.
That's a different skill set. Nobody has done this before. When you're trying to take your concept of a book and with however many words or pages and put it down into a paragraph or two, it's tough.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right, let me see. And I'm actually doing my final proofreads right now before we go to printer, kind of looking through. So I was reading through and I saw that quote and I was like, oh, I love this quote. I forgot how good it is. And so I'm like, I got to include that and we'll see what else happens.
Hey, and that's something that, for the videos, I don't know if you do like the little slides on this particular app or others, but using quotes from your book is a great way, again, to pitch it, because, hey, use the words you wrote to sell the book you wrote.
And my books, to be honest, my books are very fast moving. I know that you write kind of novellas too, so it's like a shorter book, probably fairly fast paced.
Yeah, I have novellas and then the full lengths, and but it was a challenge because I started with the larger scale books, and then the 40,000, 60,000, 140,000, 160,000 words, to then challenge myself to do the novella side of things. And it was very different process trying to tell a story succinctly, full arcs, full character development. But yeah, that does force it, especially when you're on the little more action forward, to go quickly.
Yeah. And since I've started doing the screenplay concept too, that's just a whole different animal in and of itself. I mean, you're very concise with everything, and then the viewpoints that you have to look at are completely different.
Oh yeah, that's a totally different skill set, and that's why you could learn and study and get degrees in one versus another, because they are very different. So kudos to you to be able to do both.
We'll see. I'm working on it, and I'm trying to get. I never think that I can do everything without help, especially if I've never done it before. And so I'm trying to get a few different people, and I'm meeting with a few people who help to coach and help you get your ideas more concise and a little bit. I mean, that has to be very action packed, very visual. So it's different. You can't explain everything you want to explain.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've had to read a screenplay or a play, but yes, what you take from your book and put onto that new format is in many ways minimalistic, because so much of it is just setting the scene and then the conversations and giving you just enough of what the person's here and there and movement, because everything else is supposed to be visual.
It's dialogue and it's action. Very different.
What made you decide that you wanted to try to turn your book into a potential screenplay and thus movie or something?
Yeah, well, I think I always, when I was writing it, I pictured that in my head. Like I could see it. And my book does read a little bit like a screenplay. It's very, I don't get overly descriptive. There's description, but I don't get overly descriptive. I don't always enjoy a book where it gets too much like that.
Yeah. And there are definitely people who love the rich and the deep descriptions or the poetic verse. I love setting the scene, and I want it to be a beautiful scene, but I also know that you're not going to compare me to Robert Jordan or Tolkien, because I'm not that descriptive.
And when you look into what they did to write their books, I mean, Tolkien created a whole language and math and everything before he did all that. So I'm not ready to do that either.
Well, for argument's sake, Tolkien worked with the origin of words first. That's what he studied. That's what he taught. That he was a word person first, and before he even went to the writing. So his was backwards in the sense that he created a language, and then in order to create the language, I think his theory was you have to understand the people who create it, because he worked alongside. So then who are the people, and worked backwards, and then decided, I'm going to just write this book.
Yeah, it's crazy. The different process that everyone goes through.
Oh yeah. And it's fun. It's fun to see, again, the inspirations and how people, turn a story and make it their own, because there are the people who do retellings, and part of my work is retellings, and it's a story everybody knows, but how are you going to tell it to make it new, fresh, different? And the same thing for people who are creating their own works and stories, and what inspires you, where do you pull from, what aspects of your life. So, work for you, and the fact that I have always worked with animals. So animal themes have popped up in all three of my initial series pretty heavily, because I have lots of different backgrounds with animals. So it was kind of fun to pull what
Yeah.
purpose it in a very different way.
Well, I'm a huge fan of mythology as well. And I know that you use all the Norse mythology with yours. And I mean, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of where I stand. The reason why I love fantasy is because I love mythology first. And the mythos and legends and lore from all sorts of peoples around the world. And that's where I pull from, is like the older sources. So a lot of the ways I describe entities and creatures are closer to the original than what people perceive today. Yeah. And so it is a lot of fun learning about that. And one of my YouTube series is, little mini chats about various mythological entities. And a lot of them are those that people don't really know of, but it's just fascinating.
Yeah, I had, my mother had introduced me to this book series, and I have some of them here, and I wanted to share them with you and see if these are something that you might have known. These are older books, but stuff like these. This is Spirits, Heroes, and Hunters. This is African American mythology.
Fun.
And then there's African, but it goes through, and this is Central and Southern American mythology.
I love that. No, I was going to say, I don't have those particular books. I do have a whole section in my personal library of either anthologies on myths of various people's cultures or different kind of concepts like women of myth or, things like that. So I do love that stuff. But no, I do not have those in my collection at this moment.
They're really neat because they really explore different mythologies than even the ones that you get caught in the familiar few. But this goes into these other ones, and the art in the books is really awesome. So as a kid, I always loved to look at the pictures and hear the stories, and it was nice to be exposed to those other ones, not just. I'm familiar with the main, your Norse, your Greek, your Roman, all those, but it was kind of neat to hear the other ones too.
Yeah, and I think there is a kind of, what for most people, a progression when it comes to mythology. Greco-Roman's usually one of the earliest things you're introduced. And it used to be, I think, Egypt, at least a little bit, would be almost one of the next ones. Though now, arguably, Nordic is pretty popular too. But even beyond that, there are so many different legends, lore, and again, so many peoples around the world from different times that have their own stories. And once you're exposed to some of these other things, it is eye-opening and a lot of fun to talk about. But also, let me ask, because this is heading towards the end of the hour, a couple things I want to make sure I ask. One is, outside of Book Talk, because you're here, where else can people find and follow you? So do you have your own website? Do you have a newsletter? What other socials?
Yep. I have my website is mdjobeauthor.com. So pretty straightforward and simple. I am on X at mdjobe72. I am on Instagram at mdjobe6. I am on TikTok, of course, mdjobeauthor, and Facebook, just my name, Matthew Jobe.
Hey, great. It sounds like you're at a lot of places because, again, I am that person with FOMO, so I'm all in a lot of places. But you don't have to be. That's one thing I can't express. You don't have to be everywhere. As long as wherever you are, you do the best you can and give it enough time, energy, dedication to be successful on that platform.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Well, hey, you're on the best one, Book Talk. I don't know. I just love this platform.
I really do like this platform. I just think you can reach readers so much more effectively than some of the other ones where you seem to be shouting into a void at times.
It does. Yeah, and I know everybody's brain's wired a little differently, so certain platforms, like if you are good with X, you maybe go with Threads, that kind of like quick text versus something like Pinterest or Instagram that has been traditionally visual stills. And then that's a little more video based, like however your brain works, there is something for you out there, but this one, just in my opinion, is just such a great place to be. One of the other things I want to ask, and this is for anybody who's listening, as well as you, Matt, is there any questions you wanted to ask that you haven't had a chance to ask so far? Any topics you wanted to cover that you haven't covered yet? I know you're at an event this Saturday, but also any announcements?
Yeah, this is the stuff that I have going on. June 3rd. Hopefully everything goes right. We'll have Ninth Evolution coming out, and then I have, like I said, I'm at Carolina Place Mall at the Barnes & Noble from 2 to 5 on Saturday, so definitely stop on by. And I am going to be doing a Barnes & Noble in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I graduated from college, and that is going to be June 28th from 2 to 5. So that one will be one where I can get a little bit more of my friends and family who I grew up with, so I'm excited about that.
That's great. Your June sounds busy. And that's a wonderful thing, and it is exciting that you have that second book coming out, and that is a thrilling thing. And I'm glad you're being able to celebrate by having signings and these kind of face-to-face events. How do you, or have you figured out how you like to pat yourself essentially on the back for doing a release? Because it's an achievement. Everyone. I
don't really do a whole lot for it, to be honest, in that way. I just kind of keep thinking about the next thing. My brain just keeps working like, oh no, all right, I'm done with that. But wait, I have to do this now, and I have to do that now. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is done. Yeah, I get a minute to say it's done, but then it's like on to the next.
I know that feeling. Especially if you're a person who, it sounds like you're a little bit like me, where you're editing one project and about to release another and already plotting out, your brain is constantly thinking about the next thing. And so it's harder to take that pause and hit that hard stop pause button and be like, you know what? I need to just take a moment, a half a day, an hour, a week to revel in the fact of what I just achieved, and then go back in full force. Because yeah, for me, it's when I was releasing the novellas, because they were novellas, I was like, I don't really, maybe I'll get a glass of something at the end of the day and cheers, but move on. When I do some of these bigger releases, I try to celebrate a little bit more, because in the back of my head, because they were a full book, I made more effort, which is not necessarily true. They're all a lot of effort, but it's, you have to make sure you take that moment to be like, I did the thing.
I sometimes don't think I can really grasp that that's even, it's such a special thing to be able to do when you look at the percentages of people who actually accomplished one book, let alone two or series, and the amount of books that you've published. It's really quite an accomplishment.
It is. So make sure somewhere in your hectic schedule that you pause and you're like, I did it.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be when you're around your family over in Wisconsin and your old friends, but whatever it is, do something, be like, yes, let's celebrate. Even do something small. I love that. It is definitely a feat, and it is something to be aware about, that so many people come up with stories. So many people come up with ideas for stories. But a lot of people never make the effort to put the first word on paper or the first sentence or follow through with it. And that's a stage alone. And then to finally get to the point of publishing, it's a wonderful thing. So congratulations, you're about to be able to.
Congratulations to you too. It took a long, I think the biggest thing that caught me off guard was all the waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole process is waiting, hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait. And I always just say, like, patience is a virtue. It's just not one of mine.
That's true. That's true. I don't think it's one of mine. But I also think that's why I always constantly juggle multiple things. So it distracts me from being impatient for, waiting for my editor to send something back. Well, I'm already writing the next project, or I'm marketing this, or I'm designing a special edition for this. And I have things. And then you have too many things. So don't do what I do and get too many projects at the same time.
Yeah. It's just another thing to do. Just check it off as you're going along.
That's true. I am a checklist person. I love it.
Oh, I love a checklist too.
Well, if anybody doesn't have any other questions, comments, or topics, I will be doing the wrap up shortly. But thank you so much for hopping on, Matt. I'm sorry it did take a moment to figure this out. I don't know why. That's the first one for me, but sometimes it's good to do that full restart just to get things connected.
I'll be better next time, I promise.
Oh no, I was gonna say it may not even have been you, because again, I feel like I am a technological gremlin. Like anytime I'm near something's gonna happen. It is not usually good. But we are here. We did it. We made it. It was fantastic. If you ever want to do another one of these, please let me know. Maybe obviously after you release your second book, but I do schedule them in advance, but I try to do them weekly if possible.
For sure,
and I will let you know also if this platform's nice, and I can hopefully upload this onto my YouTube channel without any glitches. I did have a glitch the other week. I feel really bad, but hopefully I can do that. Put all your content and information down below so people can continue to find you going forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Katharine. I really enjoyed my time.
Yeah, and for everybody who's come and hung out with us, thank you. And until next time, everyone, happy reading. Bye.